Welcome to another episode of Ecom Experiences, a podcast for e-commerce marketing leaders who want to grow and scale their brands faster. Join us as we interview some of the smartest brand founders and marketing leaders in the industry. Explore the lessons they learned, discover the keys to their success, and discuss what excites them most about the future.
Cool. Hi, it's Samir Balwani here, host of Ecom Experiences, where we talk to brand founders and marketing leaders about their experiences growing brands. This episode is brought to you by Query. Query is a paid media agency that helps brands balance brand awareness and performance marketing to drive predictable and profitable growth. To learn more about how we can help you, visit weareqry.com. I'm really excited for our guest today. I Will Prout, the head of growth at Titan Casket. We've been having a great conversation, and I can't wait to share all his thinking. So thank you so much for joining us, Will.
Thanks so much for having me, Samir. It's awesome to be here.
Let's get started. Tell me about the brand. Tell me how you got into it. It's such an awesome story. So let's share.
Sure. So I lead growth at Titan Casket, and Titan is basically created to save consumers money during the hardest time of their lives. So the average burial in the US is almost $10,000, and almost half of that bill is the casket usually. So really those caskets they should not be that expensive. The markups in the industry range between 300 to 500%. And so we are here to kind of solve that problem. We're the first VC-backed startup to offer direct-to-consumer caskets, and we're fully online, free shipping, guaranteed on time, and we're protected by something called the funeral rule, which is an FTC regulation that means that anyone can bring their own casket, urn, flowers, whatever it might be, to the funeral home, and they have to accept it by law and use it, and they can't charge you a fee. So at the end of the day, we're kind of here because we don't want people to take that emotional loss and turn it into a financial loss.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I love niche businesses like this because it's such a unique opportunity. It solves a true problem. It creates it kind of changes the way people think about things. Because I've never thought about buying a casket online, right? Like it's just definitely a different modality around how people can purchase. And so I think that's such a cool opportunity. So, well, tell us about your role and what you do at Titan Casket.
Sure. So I'm the head of growth here, and it's a big title, but it's because it's really a lot of different things. Like I'm running all of our paid ads, I'm optimizing our site, I'm launching new products, experiences, kind of acting as a marketer, coder, designer, AI prompt engineer. It's sort of all over the place. But it's a lot of fun.
Jack of all trades. I love it. And you said it's a lot of fun. So what is your favorite part about the role? What makes you so excited about it?
It's such a weird industry, and I think we're all like, almost everyone's like not from the fuel industry. We're all like different technology backgrounds, and there's never really a boring day in this business because it's just so unique. So like one day we'll just like all of a sudden things blow up because Taylor Swift shot a music video in one of our caskets, and that's a huge deal. Then the next day we've got MKBHD, the tech reviewer, reviewing one of our caskets in his office along with tech products, popping out in the YouTube thumbnail. Just recently we launched our new company mascot called Mort, who's a cartoon casket, who's sort of coming out there and telling you about the funeral rule. And just actually 2 days ago, we came out with the very first episode of the TV show that we're launching called Grave Conversations, which is a celebrity interview show similar to Hot Ones or Between Two Ferns, but the celebrities are lying down in a casket while our interviewer, David Esmalchin, asks them sort of crazy questions about what they want for their own death and their funeral.
Oh, that is hilarious. That's such a great idea. That is awesome. You get to do some really fun and really innovative things all around caskets. Who would have thought, right?
Yeah.
So what are the challenges, though, that as you kind of look ahead, It's interesting to hear you talk about having to educate people on that, on the funeral rule. And I'm curious, what are the other things that you're dealing with? What keeps you from your growth goals?
Sure. So right now, I mean, the caskets are a huge industry, and they're controlled by two big players that produce all of them and sell them only to funeral homes, not to consumers. And consumers really don't know about the funeral rule. Like, it's not very common knowledge. We've got still, I think, 95+% of people are buying their caskets directly from the funeral home just because they're not aware. And so there's definitely an awareness issue that we're trying to solve and make sure people know that they can do this, that, hey, you don't have to pay these massive costs. So really growing that pool of people who are going out there and looking online in the first place for a casket is certainly one of our challenges. The other one is sort of the timing issue. So obviously, a lot of people, the majority of people in their life end up planning a funeral at some point or another, but it's only something people tend to do once, maybe twice in their lives. And so you're looking at a very narrow window of time in which to tell and put our products in front of consumers that is relevant to them in their entire lifespan. So it's a big challenge has been, how do we get ourselves in front of people at that right time and place such that it's effective? Because if we spend against everyone out there that will be planning a funeral at some point, we can spend a lot of money and not be remembered or relevant for years or decades.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, how are you guys looking at that? Like, how are you thinking about the short time period, and what are the things you're doing to kind of overcome that buying cycle?
Yeah, so obviously Google's a great channel for us, and it's our largest channel for sure to put ourselves out in front of people who are searching at that right time and place. But a lot of the tests that we've done for other channels to get in front of people have failed just because like Facebook can't figure out that timing, a number like others can't. So we've been trying to test different things like putting ourselves in front of people searching for funerals in general rather than just for caskets, and try to keep relevance in the time period there. It's still quite tricky. Some affiliate partnerships that are working as well in that like right time and place issue. But the most sort of impactful thing that we've done that have launched in our time here to actually overcome that issue is to launch an entirely new product, which is pre-planning. So last year we created a tool that will let you pre-purchase your own casket ahead of time. And this way you can pick out exactly the color and style that you want. And you pay for it in installments, $20 a month for 60 months. And it's still, you get the great price locked in, much less than the funeral home. And your family doesn't have to deal with it. They just, when you pass away, they don't worry, hey, what would he have wanted? Oh, maybe he would have wanted the fancier kind, and get talked into it by a funeral director. Instead, it's already all set up ahead of time. So that has allowed us, one, helps a lot more people because you can be aware of this problem and fix it ahead of time for your family. But two, it's allowed us to run a much wider array of channels because we can hit people at any time, and it doesn't have to be like right after the death has occurred. So that's been really pretty great for us.
That's really interesting. Are people buying for themselves? I guess how many people are buying for themselves versus buying for a loved one?
Yeah, so I'd say 80% of our sales are people buying for themselves in the pre-planning division.
Oh, wow.
It's still, pre-planning is a growing part of our business quickly, but it's still only less than like a third of our sales that are right now ship a casket out.
Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah, I love how you went after a marketing problem with a product solution instead of just like banging your head on the wall around the marketing element of it. Because I think that is a thing that a lot of marketers kind of get caught with is this is a marketing problem, this is a marketing problem, this is a marketing problem, not realizing that it might be a product issue or some other way to solve it. I'm curious, how did you come up with that idea? I guess what was the aha moment? Was it I spoke to a customer and that was the thing that did it, or I saw someone else do it and we were like, all right, we're going to do this?
Well, it's hard to pin down. I think it came from a couple of places. So pre-planning is a thing in the funeral industry in general. So funeral homes will sell pre-planning packages where you can at a time pay the funeral home the $10,000 they're going to charge for the entire funeral, so you can do that for your family and get it out of the way. So that's definitely laid the seeds. I think we also saw a few instances of customers like buying a casket from us after they had a loss, they buy the casket and then they're like, "This is such a great experience, such great quality. I'm going to buy a casket for myself and I'm going to keep it in my garage." And obviously that's not practical, but the fact that we're hearing these stories from customers made us think, okay, there's a need here for something like that.
That's so interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, I love that you're able to take kind of a customer story and turn it into a product solution. What other challenges are you seeing? I know we talked about kind of the short buying cycle and this education element. Is there anything else that kind of stands out?
Well, I think on the pre-planning side is like where a lot of my focus is at the moment, and they're running Facebook and TikTok, and we're starting YouTube today as a new test. And I think a lot of what we're seeing is an urgency issue of how do we create like a desire for people to do this right now and not just think like this is a topic that people don't want to think about, right? Like it's not pleasant to think about your own death, and it's really a hard conversation to have with your loved ones. It's an important one you should have, but it's one people want to have really ever. So getting people to not think, okay, let me think about this later, or I'll do it later, but actually getting people to go and pull the trigger and say, okay, right now I'm going to sign up and get my casket done out of the way. Even if they're not sick or anything like that, just to do it. That's certainly a challenge. So we've seen strong performance on sales that we've run on like Black Friday and things like that, really large influx because we have a limited time deal for people to buy, but it's how do we get an evergreen kind of solution to really drive people to not put this off.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure there's probably a lot of learnings from like life insurance and estate planning and things like that to really, as a comp around how people think about. That's is really interesting. Awesome. So as we talked about challenges, I'd love to kind of pick your brain on what you're excited about for the future. I heard prompt engineering in there, so I'm assuming AI is a piece of it as well. But yeah, where are you turning to? What's exciting?
Well, AI is incredibly exciting, just useful for being able to iterate and do more as one person. I mean, we're a very lean team, and having AI really is a force multiplier. So I can just get so much copy made, images made, learn things, get code written. So there's just a lot that I'm relying on for, but I'm not sure that there is that much of a customer facing AI solution. We've talked about AI obituary writers and things like that.
That's interesting.
But which could be cool. I think from my end, there's the pre-planning, I think there's a lot more to explore there, and going beyond just caskets is really exciting. So we're doing urns and pet caskets and so on, things like that are sort of broadening our product depth. But really the problem we're trying to solve here is the funeral industry, because it's 100 years old. It has not changed. Like funeral homes only got websites in the last 5 years, really. So there's a lot you can do to try to make the entire process better for families. And so right now we're talking about ways we can improve our pre-planning to be beyond just like pick your casket, but really lay out your wishes for what you want for your funeral, lay and plan into a more holistic solution of what music do you want to be played there? What food do you want to be catering the event? And what the whole send off would look like. So I think that there's a larger piece of designing a more personal funeral experience that people can plan ahead for. That's going to be really a lot of fun and have a big impact potentially.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I'm sure, I have not gone through that experience, but I'm sure it's contentious when there are siblings involved or other parties involved. So simplifying it probably is huge.
Certainly. And I mean, I think if you were able to measure the customer satisfaction rate of dead people on how their funeral was, it would be really pretty low, because like if you ask most people like, hey, what do you want for your funeral? They'll tell you about like some custom interesting thing that's like unique to them and really like says about a story about what their life was like and what they cared about and their values. And what people actually get is a pretty cookie cutter template of a service at a funeral home or a little reception. And it's very generic. So I think there's a desire for people to inject some real like personality and like unique flavor into their own funerals that is out there. And it's one of those ways that can make it more fun and make it less difficult and change that conversation. Like I always say to people, like, oh, do you want to be buried or cremated? I said, I want to be put into a rocket and launched into space. And I think there's a lot of like uniqueness and individual flavor that can come out that people would want to have in these funerals, but it's not really a possibility at the moment.
Yeah. And it's interesting because if you do spend the time thinking about it, and if it is important, it's part of the grieving process for people, right? So to do it without making it difficult is really a huge opportunity. Cool. Amazing. All right. So Will, my one last question for you. As we are kind of looking ahead and you are head of growth, what advice do you give a new marketing director first 90 days for 6 months?
I think for me, the most important thing is admit that you know absolutely nothing and focus all of your energy on learning everything that you can. And the rest will figure itself out after that. Like every single product, brand, vertical is completely different. And you just have to like always constantly be talking to your customers, running user tests, watching log rockets, and A/B test every single thing constantly. You can't assume that you know anything, that everything's going to work the way it should. So you shouldn't overinvest in anything that you're like, oh yeah, this will definitely happen, and spend 6 months working on it, because at the end of the day, you just can't be sure that it's going to work. And so many times I've had assumptions that have been just completely proven wrong. So that's, to me, that's most important.
That's really interesting. Where do you go to keep ahead of latest news and insights? Like where are you turning to learn?
I mean, I'm probably subscribed to like 10 different newsletters that I get in my inbox each day. And I listen to podcasts here and there sporadically to research. I think in this job, I've realized the conferences actually could be really quite useful in terms of like, I'll go to the National Funeral Directors Association conference each year and just talk to funeral directors and learn and see what they're doing and how they're talking about the industry. And not that there's necessarily like always like that great insights of like, you'll learn how to do marketing better, but rather you'll understand the industry and the way that other companies are thinking about these things and where they're failing to see the right sort of answers and where there's opportunity.
Yeah, and I'm sure it gives you a way of understanding the customer better too, because there's no like conference for people that have recently died. So there's no one there that's you don't have like a following of customers there. So I'm sure the funeral director is probably the best way. It's interesting because like most of my day is conversations with people, just trying to learn and understand what's going on in the industry. What are they working on? What matters? And I think humility and being humble that you know nothing is probably one of the most important things, because if you assume you know it, you're going to miss out on that really interesting opportunity or really cool new thing that could have been huge for you, because you're just going to ignore it across the board. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. If someone wants to find you online, where can they learn about you?
Oh, I'm on LinkedIn, but I'm not a very interesting guy to follow. I don't really post anything, but I would definitely recommend following Titan Casket. We put out pretty funny stuff on our Instagram and Twitter regularly. Follow Mort. We've created his socials also on Twitter and Instagram, and Grave Conversations just launched on Instagram. So definitely look them up and watch the first episode. It's pretty great.
Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you again so much, Will, for coming.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us. If you liked it, remember to subscribe so you'll be notified of new episodes. And if you know someone who would enjoy this show, don't forget to share and leave a review. It all helps us impact more brands. If you're looking to improve your paid media, go to weareqry.com and schedule a consultation. We're always happy to chat. See you for the next one.